via remote means in accordance with applicable law. And by that, we have one board member tonight that is remote. We are not live, and do we have a Zoom set up? So
no Zoom, just I can do the presentation.
No Zoom.
No Zoom tonight. So the only person that is remote is one of our board members, Mr. Glennon. Please note that while this is being provided as a courtesy to our board member, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if a technological problem interrupts the Mr. Glennon's participation. This meeting will be recorded by PAC TV. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing the Duxbury Government Access Channel, Verizon 39, or Comcast 9. After this meeting, this meeting will be recorded. Viewers can visit pactv.org to watch it by streaming or watching a replay on Duxbury YouTube. With that, I call the meeting to order, and our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have open forum. It's an opportunity for folks, including the board, to raise items they'd like to put on future agendas. If you could be brief, because we cannot respond, that would be particularly helpful here. And you can certainly follow up with our town manager or the board if there's something else you want to elaborate on. With that, if you do have an open agenda item, you can step up to the podium, but I'll start with the board first. Does anybody in the board have any open forum items? Go ahead, Fernando.
Just an announcement. The town's water quality website is up and running. It's on the town's conservation webpage. So it's an official site, and key things, what it can help with regards to water quality. There's basically three things you can do. So it's all about caring for your septic system, gives helpful tips there. Gives also helpful tips about lawn fertilizer best practices. And if you're considering hiring a landscaper, there are 5 things or 5 questions you can ask your potential landscaper. So a useful website. I just want to thank Nancy Roof and the Conservation Commission for hosting that website, and also to Peter Quigley and Richard Clayman for creating that Duxbury water quality website. Has lots of information, and if you follow those 3 helpful tips, you'll have a direct impact on the quality of our bay. So just wanted to share that with everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else from the board? Go ahead.
Just quickly, I had a telephone call from a resident in town who has been concerned about public access on our sidewalks and our streets that have sidewalks. And specifically, she's drawn attention to landscapers and construction people who are blocking access to the sidewalks. So I'm just wondering if on a future agenda, when we'll be meeting with our traffic safety people, and I think this is a concern. You know, there's a movement in town to create more sidewalks. People seem to want the sidewalks. So I think in tandem with that conversation, we need to talk about making sure that that sidewalks stay open and accessible. So if we could add that to a future agenda item, I'd appreciate it.
Great. All right, any members of the public? With that, I'll move on to new business. We have the first item on the agenda is the Age and Dementia Friendly Task Force update presented by Mr. Kevin Mullins, who's the chair of that committee.
Okay.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. While you're getting it ready, I want to thanks everybody for having us here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start a little bit off script. One of the things I know our team wanted us to really kind of emphasize is that we hope that tonight's a great beginning of a great partnership and a working together in the future with a lot of really good people working and doing great things. So we hope this starts it, number one. Number two, we kind of joked around a little bit that after our meetings and with the public, that our livable Duxbury name really should be changed to even more livable Duxbury. It's clear that there are a lot of people that live in town, love it here, and want to stay here. That's part of the things we're going to try to address as we go through. But the other thing that became clear in our meetings with them is that the desire for change and the desire for how do we help make that happen. At the end of our town meetings, often the thing that was brought up to us was by the people that came up to us after we presented this plan, the draft to, was how can they help and what do they want to do next? What can we help them do next? So that's kind of the spirit with which. And the third thing, and this is input from, we met with planning and we met with zoning over the last month, and they wanted us to really emphasize these three numbers that we brought up. The first is 100. We have over 100 volunteers ready to work on our task force and our domain plans effective 7/1 as soon as we give them the go-ahead. We have a passionate group. Many of them are here tonight to work on that. So the first number is 100. Second number is 2,500. We have communication access readily to 2,500 seniors regularly through the communication processes of the senior center. So many times that's how we're communicating to them. And the third number is 5,000. In Duxbury, there are about 5,000 plus 60-year-olds. And that number's projected to grow further. So 100, 2,500, and 5,000. So thanks for that. So if you go to the agenda, please, Michelle. Do some quick introductions, go through a couple of meeting objectives. We'll go through the project background. I'm going to go over some of the four domains and the recommendations, but I won't go through each one. Just highlight a few, and then we'd love your comments after that. So just some introductions. We had, our team wanted to be here tonight. We wanted to be here in masses, and we said, no, tonight's not the night for that. We wanted to have some of our key people here and some of the others. Some Joanne Moore, Brooke McDonough from the Senior Center. One thing we wanted to highlight with them is they're doing all of this in addition to their regular jobs, and they've been spectacular. We've spent more than a year working on this, and they've been great to work with. In addition, we have from our task force, Mary Sheese, Mike Herlihy, and that's it, I think, from the task force. Fred Van Bargen. And then 4 of the key people here tonight are our domain leaders. So we're going to talk about what domains are, and these people are going to lead the action plan forward. So in communications, we have Sue Hoover. Transportation, we have Penny Herlihy. Mental health, we have Peter Holden. And housing, we have Kathy Dowling. So that's kind of our team of leaders. I'll go over a few things, but please, they'll speak up if they have questions, and they'll answer some of those, okay? So next, meeting objectives. We're really here to present our plan. We've sent you the 95, 100-page plan with the executive summary and other things, but we're here to hopefully get your approval to adopt our recommendations. And the second one I kind of did in my lead-in, though, is to introduce us and to say we want to be a positive force for change, and how do we work together to help that. So that's the objectives of tonight. Project background. Really, this started about 7 years ago, where Joanne kind of directed us on the board to help develop a long-range plan. As offshoots of the long-range plan, we did this in our communications team. It was to send out a survey to really find out how people in Duxbury felt, and we had maybe to our surprise or not, we had a survey response of over 1,400 responses, about 1,200 from seniors in town, and it came up that the 4 things that they were most concerned with were mental health, housing, transportation, communication. Just so happened at the same time there was a train going down the tracks of an ARP program of 8 domains. 4 of them were those, and the state of Massachusetts is working on that. So that's why we came to you in July of 23 and said we'd like to work on this task force. So what's happened over the past year? We've done listening and learning. We basically took some of the earlier documents, Envision Duxbury 2019, Hall's Corner study. We looked at those. We had focus groups. We did a housing summit. We had a few open town meetings and put together. So our charge was to come up with some general recommendations in each of the areas. We had from Old Colony Planning Council, Joanne Zygmunt, who's here today, who's been great. She's been our guide, our mentor. She's worked with a number of other communities on this and really kind of gave us some great best practices from some other places and set us on course to get this done. So what we've done over the past year is come up with this plan of recommendations, created domain teams with domain leaders who are then going to act on the action plans and put more meat on the bones. Okay, next slide, Michelle. And the other thing is we wanted to ask is, how can we make a difference? When we read Envision Duxbury 2019, we said, man, this is really well done. But we kind of saw not much has happened. So we want to figure out how can we help to do that. And the other thing, I think we're a little bit different from maybe other committees and other people that have come up in front of you is we are part of an existing organization. We are a task force made up, but we report back to the COA board and we report back to you. Our domain leaders, all four, are current members of the Council on Aging board. And so we have an organization that's not going away. We're going to be here for a number of different years. And the other piece is, if you went through all of the action plans that we outlined, there's about 58 of them. More than 2/3 of them, we said, we'll do the work. The senior center is going to do the work on 2/3 of them. So that's pretty good. It's not like, here we are standing in front of you saying, here's what we think you guys all need to do. So there are going to be some we're going to need help, and we're going to need to work with the town, and we're going to need to work with others. But our commitment here and our team's commitment is we're going to do work, and we're going to follow up on this work. And like I said, I think we built up an organizational structure with leaders ready for action and to do work. So, okay. All right, that's how we can make it a difference. Picked up this at some of our other meetings. Is there some shorter term assistance that we can provide? We believe that in the November meeting, special town meeting, and there'll be an MBTA proposal. How can we help with that? How can we influence that? We heard that in the March 2025, we'll have an annual town meeting with some proposals that may include zoning changes. And that there's some consultants working on that now. The only thing I want to add from a personal note, a place I spend some of my time outside of Duxbury is in Hilton Head, and they've done some great things in looking at how do they look at town planners and that job differently, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay. Next. So in summary, we want to be a positive influence. We want to be a positive help. We have resources to help to do information gathering, to do other things, and we're at your service. Okay, all right. So as I said, we're going to start tonight. We spent the last year on 4 domains, key areas: housing, transportation, mental health, and communication. And we listed some of the action plans that are here, but I'm just going to highlight a few, maybe some that we thought might have been the most important, ones that we want to work with you on. So, seniors said, and others have said, they really would like housing options in our commercial areas. So how do we create those options in commercial areas, multi-use buildings and so on, and how do we help then the commercial piece with that? Number one, how do we promote, and then number two is, how do we promote smaller, more attainably priced housing in cottage-style developments? 10 to 12 to 15 of those, houses in a place in other parts of town. Number three, accessory dwelling units. How do we do that in a way that's appropriate for Duxbury and make it appropriate for the people that are requesting them? I know we're going to have some state help on that, or maybe some guidance on that, but we've done initial research from a half a dozen towns of what they're doing. Chris Ryan has helped us in a number of those areas as well, so that's a one that's high on our list. And the other piece is in working with the Affordable Housing Trust to support the housing production plan for the town. We have Mike Herlihy is our representative on that board now, and we want to help. How do we help them get things done? Next slide on housing. And we just took out of the master plan, and it's, you know, why can't we make housing to be seen as a positive opportunity to help the vitality in the town, to help the commercial business in the town, and to help build the options? And we have a lot of data that we've gone through over, and I just highlighted one piece, and this is national. But basically, the national problem is that we have 80% of the American households don't fit into the traditional nuclear family. And in the US, 72% of the housing units cater to the traditional family. You know, maybe in Duxbury, the number might be 90 to 95% cater to the traditional family. So how can we get that number at least more moving in the right direction? How do we give people more housing options in the right way and satisfy the needs of that constituency? Okay, that's it on housing. Transportation. Helping focus on safe, accessible travel for all ages and all types. You know, first you start out as vehicles, cars, walking, and bicycles, and you see how many people are on scooters these days, how many people are on other types of movable devices that we have to take into consideration. So there are things we think we can do to help short term for that in town. Some pretty neat things that we've found to help with seniors. There's a program called Go Grandparent. It's basically Uber and Lyft for grandparents. You know, there's some things we got to work on, the nuances of that, but there's things like that that we can do. We know we have an outage in providing transportation to the Weymouth medical facilities. We currently provide transportation locally and down to Plymouth, but we don't do Weymouth. We need to do something about that. And the other thing we're really working hard on is how do we make GATRA work better and more efficiently? You know, one of the things is we have to wait for them. We've provided them the feedback that, you know, why don't you have smaller buses so you can have more of them and you can do different things? And they have a 3-year transportation replacement plan, and that's their plan. But we're actively working with GATRA on those issues too. Next is communication. We really would like to recommend that you make a strategic choice that the town website is a great customer service tool and upgrade that. And, you know, that's obviously your decision you're gonna have to make, but we have a number of people. We have website developers that are on our team. We have others, you know, that are ready to help and to move ahead with that. So we wanted to figure out how in the changing media world, how do we communicate more directly and more frequently? You know, the Clipper's fabulous. I mean, it is tremendous. We want to work with them. But there are some other communities. Nantucket has this thing called the Nantucket Current that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 20,000 people get updates on what's going on in town and community events, official events, municipal events, and how could we replicate something like that? Plymouth Independent is doing things like that. So we want to work through organizations to try that. The Duxbury Community Collaborative is working on putting together a community calendar. How can we work with them to do those type of things and get all that information out in a maybe a little different way, maybe a more effective way, a more efficient way? And how do we get good cell coverage in the right places? You know, peace. I know it's not easy, but
No.
you know, we're here to say.
We've had that discussion a couple of times here, so.
Well, just remember, go back to the numbers: 100, 2,500, 5,000. If we can help on that, we are open to do that. Okay. Health and community services. We've focused on one element of it in this first year. We're going to do, and that's mental health. We'll expand it to more areas of health, but the focus on mental health has been really in things that we found out about Plymouth County having this really great crisis intervention first responders program where they meet weekly to talk about countywide issues. One of the things we said is if that's working so well in Plymouth, why shouldn't we do the same thing in Duxbury? Maybe it's not weekly meetings, maybe it's bi-weekly, but something like that, right? The Senior Center has a fabulous social day program. It's just not serving enough people right now. So how do we expand it from 20 to 50 to 100? One of the, you know, so I'm just a regular citizen. I didn't do anything about housing communications before this, but one of the things that's most impactful is in some of the meetings hearing the real vignettes from people, like in this one on the social day program, hearing caregivers, say what the social day program gives them. We're 2 days a week, 6 hours a day, that 12 hours that it gives them, and so that it just kind of lends credence to our efforts and what we'd like to do and try to get there. So we talked about crisis intervention. We know that there's a mental health issue in various places in town. How do we unite the various resources, maybe provide more resources in town of the 3 or 4 groups that are doing community outreach? And how do we do a better job on outreach so you don't get to the crisis stage? How do you, when you get to the crisis stage, do you do a better job? And then take care of social day, that program. So that's 3 of the ones that we want to work on first, health and community services. Next. So these are kind of said tongue in cheek, but these are some other observations at no extra charge to the proposal. We 100% unanimous that the town planner is critical. And I know I think we've gone 3 out of the 7 years without a town planner, and I'll refer back to Hilton Head. I know we're not the same community, but it's about twice the size of us. When I was down there this year, they had an article written by the mayor that they moved the town planner into 2 separate roles, and they did it chief housing officer and chief sustainability officer. I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, but it was a strategic choice to say that position's important, those positions are important, and we're going to invest in them. And I guess we'd encourage that approach there to the town planner. I mean, we think it's critical to getting a number of these things done. The other thing, a number of us have seen the light on grants, and and I think if we'd say, if we were in business, we'd say, let's go attack this whole grants thing and let's have a focus on that. And so, maybe speaking to the choir, and you know that already, but there are so many grants out there. And I think as Joanne from OCPC, MAPC has made it available. Now I'm on the MAPC monthly list, and one item on their agenda is all the grants that are available to everybody. So, and that's just one organization. How do we attack all the organizations, get every grant we can? And the other piece, Chris Ryan came in his early days working with us and said, one of the things we have to do is we have to get everybody involved in housing together. So in January of this year, we had over 75 people attend a housing summit. And it was people involved in housing and the components of housing. And it was an eye-opener to see how the communication between some of the groups is really not that great. I guess there's no other way to say it. So what we've done is we've shared board members across organizations. Board members have come on our board. We have a CPC person coming on our task force. We have Mike's gone on the Affordable Housing Trust. We've some others. So there's that's all free. We can just do it, and maybe we have a housing summit every year. Something like that. So those are the other observations at no extra charge. I'll open it up for questions and discussion, but really what we're requesting is obviously your agreement to adopt the plan, your agreement to keep the task force and the domain groups going in next fiscal year. We see our role of the task force as a task force as 2 things. Number 1, we oversee the domain teams of the 4 domains that we have action plans for. And number 2, we have 4 additional AARP domains to work on. And so we'll start the same process to get to those domains and then work on them for the balance of this year. So that's our 2 roles. And we would offer that we would come to you twice a year and give you an update, talk about what can we do better. We want to dialogue all along, whenever you should reach out to us whenever we can, but we would do formal updates with you twice a year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with the board. Does the board have any questions at this point?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. And I'm sorry if I cut in front of everybody. I can't see hands. Just wanted to thank Kevin and the task force for all the hard work. It's hard to believe it's been a year already. It feels like we just authorized the task force. And there's a ton of work that's happened in the last 12 months. I'm very proud to be this board's liaison to the Council on Aging, and in that capacity, I participated in a number of the task force meetings, and there was just so much work and enthusiasm that's gone into this whole process. I had an opportunity to review the draft report with Kevin about a month ago or so. The recommendations, I think, are terrific. And one thing Kevin mentioned that I just want to amplify, he made reference to the comprehensive plan. And I know this board is very interested in making sure that we move forward with the action items on the comprehensive plan. And I just wanted to point out that a number of the provisions of the task force report have to do with things that are complementary to the comprehensive plan, and they're not duplicative, and they're not in addition. Well, I mean, I guess there are some things that are in addition, but what I'm trying to say is it really aligns well, I think, with the comprehensive plan. And I think they've done a terrific job in aligning the things that the town has already said it wants through the comprehensive plan and has supplemented with specific areas related to being age and dementia friendly. And one thing that we haven't talked about yet that I just wanted to suggest, I saw the letter, the proposed letter to the community that's signed by the select board. I would recommend that we also include the task force as a signatory on that in observance of their significant work that went in on this. I don't want the town to think it was just the select board put this together. The task force obviously did a ton of work, and I think they should be recognized as signatories of the letter as well. Thank you.
Anybody else on the board? Did you want to say something, Amy?
So I just have some comments, and it does sound like you guys have done a tremendous amount of work, and it's commendable, and I'm appreciative that Brian has had an opportunity to work with you all. I just want, we didn't receive the actual plan until afternoon today, and I work full-time, so I have not had the opportunity to read the plan. So right off the bat, I feel very reluctant to endorse something that I haven't read, because I do feel that that is a kind of a condition of my role up here, is to at least read something I'm going to endorse. So having said that, when I'm looking at this, and I think the transportation, you guys are right on. I think that's awesome. I think the mental health part of it, it's the housing that I struggle with, because housing is a very complex, huge issue in this town, as I'm sure you guys have gotten into this. And there's no easy answers. And when you increase density, you increase the tax burden for the rest of the town. So I'm very concerned right now where the town is undertaking an in-depth study of our finances to get a good outlook as to where we are with our finances and how we're going to sustain things moving forward. So I'm really reluctant to endorse or push something forward that may impact other residents that are struggling to pay their taxes and stay in their homes. And I just want to, as I certainly understand the plight of this group, I want to think about everybody here. So I'm really concerned about, endorsing, for instance, having this translate into, and again, I haven't seen the plan, so maybe that my endorsement isn't endorsing an increase in density. Because it's not just the tax burden that density creates, it's environmental concerns as well, to our water, to our open space, to our services in town. So it is, as I know you guys all know, it is a very complex issue, and I guess I'm just right off the bat, I have not read the plan, so first and foremost. So I apologize for that. I just simply there was just not time in my day to do that, so I apologize.
Yeah, just one thing to address on we thought the plan was available to read by 6/1, so that's got it.
Yeah, we had made it available.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been live to everybody on the website and on the town, but since 6/1. So just from our end of it, I would never ask you to approve something that you got at 3:18 p.m. today.
That is when so I
Yeah, so what I mean,
so-
we were under the assumption that it was available since then.
And I'm sure it was, it just was, I wasn't aware that it was available, so I didn't know that, so just full disclosure here.
Peace.
Right, well, I
I
would,
think too, it's important.
you need to get up to the microphone.
If you don't mind, so that
Sorry.
every-
All
it's-
this
Share.
gets recorded.
yeah, so it's
Yes.
recorded, so everybody who's listening in.
If you
and
could just
watching.
give your name and,
Responsibility to be recorded.
Yeah.
Mike Hurley, 56 St. George Street. Please note that we're concerned about many of the things that you outlined. We have 5,008 seniors as of 2023 here in town, and those 1,391 pieces of input contained hundreds of comments about affordability, livability, et cetera, that were in your list of things, Amy, that you talked about. So we're with you. We're not against you, and we're also pay a lot of taxes too, and we're not interested in paying a lot more. But I think there's an opportunity here to take the resource of the growing 60-plus community and use it as an asset to the town to try and get more things done within the resource envelope that we can afford. So just want you to know that we're not trying to end run the economics of this, the $100 million budget, so.
Well, thank you.
Understood, and thank you.
Yeah, just to piggyback on Amy, I think I would like the opportunity to read the report as well. I think it's great. I think the work you all have done is fantastic. I'm very excited about it. As far as the housing is concerned, I may be, closer than Amy to be looking to downsize from my family home that I've been living in for 36 years. And, a concern, I think, for so many seniors is looking for something that is affordable and is smaller, and having some different opportunities and not having it all cookie cutter, different opportunities. And so I'm excited about the housing recommendations, and I know that'll, that needs to be done very, very thoughtfully. But, I appreciate the fact that different options are being put forward for thought and for discussion, so, yeah. No questions, I thought.
so, as I understand it, and I haven't read it either, I also got the email with the hyperlink today. As I understand it, the recommendations are housing and commercial, let me know if I'm misstating this, pursuing commercial areas, smaller cottage-style housing, accessory dwelling units, and working with the Affordable Housing Trust. Are those really the 4 points?
I think Kevin and the team have summarized, right? So if you look at the housing recommendations, we'll support, if you were to read the goal, strategy, and actions recommended, are all these points.
All of those.
All of those points, right, Kevin?
Exactly, and
Yeah.
and because on housing, I miss.
Kevin, you don't mind?
Brian was the one
Right.
that, oops,
Yeah, sorry.
Brian saved me, and I'm saying this. All eight of our housing recommendations are included in the comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And
And we didn't do that on purpose. It worked its way there. We
Right.
read the comprehensive plan, but it was those things that came out in the survey and those things that came out in the meetings. And then we wrote the 8 down, we put the plan together, and we said, wait a minute. And in fact, Brian said, why don't you look at this, compare it to the comprehensive plan? We did, and we were 8 for 8.
Yeah. So I mean, the comprehensive plan envisioned Duxbury was the best, probably most widely read and fed, and there were numerous meetings. Probably the largest response we've ever had in updating the comprehensive plan. So a lot of work went out to engage with the community, get community feedback. And so this is the community feeding, telling us what they're looking for, right? So it's not just, it's a lot of people. A lot of people want to make that point.
Yeah.
The other one is, again, for the transportation recommendations, it's quite clear. It's summarized quite nicely in this handout that we received. So But Kevin, I do have one question for you, though. You mentioned 2/3 and 1/3. So what's the 1/3 that you're asking us to do, besides approving the plan?
Oh, well, no, of the, say, 58 action plan.
Yeah.
2/3, we're gonna work on it,
Yeah,
do
yeah.
the work. The other 1/3 of the
Yes.
ones, somebody else, like,
Oh, right.
we can't do ADUs.
Sure.
You know what I mean? We can't take that from start to finish.
Yeah.
We can help with information, we can do this, but, no, that's what I mean, like, an ADU would be put in the 1/3.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
All right. Accessory dwelling units,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And changing the zoning bylaws to reflect that.
Go
So-
ahead, Amy.
Right.
Oh.
If I could
So-
add another comment, I was involved with, when Val Massard was here with the Envision Duxbury process. and
Right.
Worked with Chuck Wildbrunner and everything, and I also facilitated the work in the Hall's Corner study from years back. And I think we're all, singing from the same hymnal. My reaction, I think, to the discussion here today is that we certainly would relish having you dig into the plan and
Right.
reconvening to get your feedback, because this is work that we're doing on a volunteer basis, and each of the domain leaders have put together a team of 6 to 10 people with different skill sets, et cetera. So we don't want to run that engine in a direction.
Right.
Amy
Right.
expressed something. We all want to be mutually productive. Now, it's not going to be perfect, because nothing is, but perhaps what we ought to do is give you some time to read things and then come back together.
That sounds like a good idea.
I think we definitely need to, right? And I think the one that, as a board, we need to focus on is housing. I think the rest, transportation and mental health and communications, those are, I think it's the housing the one. So let's roll our sleeves up and review the housing recommendations. Let's revisit Envision Duxbury and see what our residents said to us. And then come back. We need to, out of respect for all the work that this task force has done, we need to hear you and we need to give you our feedback.
I totally agree that, you guys have done a tremendous amount of work, and I'm hopeful that this can move forward. I do feel the need to remind everyone that comprehensive plans, the master plans, are based on a survey that the townspeople fill out. They compile that, they hold public meetings, they compile the information, they put it in a plan. The real challenge with the plan is the implementation of the plan. So back in 1999, when we did the last comprehensive plan before Envision Duxbury, then that translated into a working group that worked together for years to come up with zoning bylaws that to in fact implement some of the goals in the comprehensive plan. That's where the cluster zoning bylaw came from. That's where the inclusionary bylaw came from. That's where the tree cutting, you can't cut down all the trees on your lot bylaw came from. So there were many changes back then, and here we are again. Statutorily, the planning board is the board. They are elected 7-member board. 3 of us on this board used to be members of the planning board. Statutorily, they're the ones who are your zoning bylaw experts. They are, the statute says they bring these to town meeting. They hold public meetings, public hearings on these changes. And again, it requires a 2/3 vote. So, while these housing, and again, I haven't read the plan, so I don't know how strongly our endorsement of this plan pushes those efforts forward, I want to be cognizant of the fact that it's not it's their wheelhouse. I mean, I don't want to push another elected board in a direction that, I don't know, I haven't heard from them as to what they're, so I think we just have to be a little bit careful and work, again, and I know you guys are doing that, bringing everybody together, but I want, the planning board is your zoning bylaw change board.
We're sitting in,
I think.
we're sitting in those meetings, and we joined several of those groups as
Yeah.
So I think
observers. So
Yeah,
we're working in that direction I think you'd like us to, but.
And I appreciate your idea here, and I think maybe on the next time that we have somebody, maybe ask if a representative from the planning board could come in
yeah.
and connect the dots here.
Yeah, the current chair is Scott Casagrande, so it'd be great to have him here at the meeting at the same time.
Yeah. And maybe our, and I don't want to, where we're speaking kind of without having read it, maybe on the next time we can also discuss maybe our town manager's reaction to some of the, just some of these
It means a
costs
great deal for us to have you comfortable and confident at the outset, not discovering things 6,
Right.
10 months from now, and having to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So
And by
we're really
reaction,
interested.
I mean, what would, our endorsement mean for you?
Yeah, that's the big question. What does that mean?
Okay.
Brian, sorry, I just.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sure. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just a couple of points. One is I think we all received hard copies of this report already. And I guess my only question there would be the extent to which the link from today differs from the hard copy we've already received, because that might help speed up the process if we don't have to necessarily reread or reprint something. I'm not aware of any changes, so I think the hard copy that we all have is the one you can read through. Also, I just want to reiterate the fact that, and I agree with Amy, the comprehensive plan.
Brian, he's going to answer your question. He's going to answer your question, Brian. Hold on one second.
There's nothing
All right.
substantive different in the report you received today than the hard copy or one up online on 6/1. Now, there's some grammar, there's some other things, a couple of
Okay.
charts changed, but nothing
Yeah, okay.
big change.
Okay.
Okay. And Kevin, you made reference, again, as I said earlier, to the comprehensive plan, and I just wanted to point out to Amy's point that one of this board's, the select board's priorities is to implement the comprehensive plan, and I think through this task force, this is a terrific way to implement at least some of the priorities or some of the recommendations of the comprehensive plan, one of which, and I think this fits squarely within the housing area from this task force, is a variety of housing options. And of course, that's an issue that's going to keep popping up. And I just want to also address the point of, whether this belongs to the planning board or some other place. Given that this select board is the one that appointed the task force, I think it's entirely appropriate for the task force to be reporting back to us. And in fact, I appreciate the fact that the board is reporting back to us with the findings and requesting an endorsement. So I think I would just clarify or caution that I don't think we're asking the task force to now go report to the planning board. I think if I'm hearing Amy correctly, we're asking for somebody from the planning board to maybe participate to some extent or opine on the report. I just want to make sure we're not, we have a sort of a three-way firing squad here, all of pointing at each other. This board, the select board, has appointed the task force, and I think the issue properly rests here, and especially where implementation of the comprehensive plan is one of our goals. So I think things align more than maybe we think aligned, and I also want to commend Mike on his point. I think we have the luxury here of some very talented and motivated volunteers that are willing to help us move this forward. I think I agree with Amy's point earlier about the implementation being the hardest point of the comprehensive plan. And we're seeing that live and in color here in Duxbury. And to the extent we can at least move some of it forward through the proposed report from the task force, I think we'll be the better for it. I appreciate everybody's help. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all very much. This is certainly a ton of work and excellent. And we will, to be continued. But thank you.
when, we'll be back.
Yes, I'll talk. Yeah, thank you very much.
I think
you.
the energy and commitment that you've shown, Kevin, I think is a reflective of the commitment and energy of the task force itself. So you're a great representative, and I appreciate the time and energy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. We now have, sorry, I lost my agenda here, a discussion and update from the Highway Safety Committee regarding traffic recommendations for Cox's Corner. Route 3A and Route 139, right over by Reds there. This will be presented by, I believe,
Paul Brogna.
Paul, and I saw him.
He was here.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, just
Go
to
right
give background for the audience. This intersection has been one of the top 3 intersections in town that has a history of above-average vehicular accidents. Attached in the packets is a 2022 road safety audit, a report from the Old Colony Planning Council. OCPC visited the site, compiled data, and identified items that could be enhanced to potentially improve safety at that intersection. An April 4th, 2024 email from MassDOT District 5 traffic engineer indicated that this intersection was added to the scope of a project that will implement short-term safety improvements at multiple locations across District 5. The Highway Safety and Advisory Committee discussed this matter at length at their April 4th and May 2nd meetings, and they are requesting that the Select Board support this project by submitting a letter to Mass DOT District 5, and there's a draft attached, and Mr. Brogna is here to discuss that.
Thank you, Mr. Brogdon. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, I'm Paul Brogna from 90 Humphreys Lane, co-chair of the Highway Safety Advisory Committee. And along with us tonight is Jeff Lewis, our other co-chair, both of us.
Paul, could you speak up a bit? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Thanks.
That won't help. The microphone won't help.
Won't help. No.
Just more
I'll
of
do
a-
my best, Brian, okay? Is that better?
Thank you, Colonel. Got it.
Along with us tonight is Jeff Lewis, our co-chair of the Highway Safety Committee, and Mr. Fred Bonbargen, who was doing a doubleheader tonight between the Council on Aging Committee and our Highway Safety Committee, and he's the member emeritus of our committee, okay?
Emeritus.
And also with us tonight is Sheila Lynch Benton, who has been our guiding force since the accident at Cox's Corner on Monday afternoon, April 1st. Okay. As Mr. Reed has indicated and summarized, what we're here for this evening is to ultimately request the endorsement of a letter that Mr. Lewis and I submitted to the board last week, which was preceded by another letter from our committee to you, the Board of Selectmen, requesting further support of additional safety enhancements at this intersection. Okay. Strangely, I joined this committee in 1987. We had 3 priority intersections at that time. We had Winter Street and Route 53. We had Lincoln Street and Congress Street and Route 3 at exit 12 or exit 11 or 22, whatever it is now, okay? And those 3 intersections and Cox's Corner, okay? Obviously, for those of us in town, we had a roundabout installed at Lincoln Street and 14 many years ago. Big improvement. Not perfect, but it was a big improvement. 7 to 8 years ago, we had the second roundabout in town at Winter and 53, and that is working as perfectly as the design, the traffic flows allow. Last but not least is Cox's Corner. It's still on the list, okay? As Mr. Reed has indicated, back in 2018, the Commonwealth and the Old Colony Planning Council looked at the initial road safety audit for Congress Street. They updated it 2 years ago in February of 2022, and basically they looked at the issues with a known intersection that has a known accident history, minor injuries, major accidents, major injuries, and this intersection has continued to be on the list. When you look at the accident data that we receive from Duxbury Police, Duxbury Fire Department, over the last 6 to 7 years, we've had over 44 accidents at this intersection. The catalyst was obviously the one in April 1st, that Monday afternoon, a few months ago. Fortunately, the initial audit that the state had completed with Old Colony Planning Council identified some safety improvements at Cox's Corner, okay? And I'm not sure the report that we submitted before, did you get the attachment to it?
Yes.
Which includes,
Yes.
was that at 4
Yep.
o'clock this afternoon, or did you get that over the weekend for your homework?
We had that over the weekend for
Oh,
homework.
over the weekend.
Okay, all right. Because what is in this report is very simple, it's very direct, and it basically suggests that one of the biggest improvements we can do when the factors involve safety and high-speed accidents or high-speed near accidents at an intersection under state control is a flashing light, okay? When you read the fine print here, the benefits of the flashing light are more easily obtainable, more easily sustainable, because a traffic flashing light can be put up very easily and simply. Like back in the 80s, we put the flashing light up at 139 and 14 at the old police station. That went up for minimal cost very quickly. When you look at traffic lights that are the red and the green lights, obviously, you have to do major geometry alterations to those intersections. Pavement, drainage, everything. It takes time, it takes a lot of money, like we're doing at exit 10 and 20 with the 2 roundabouts, okay? So we discussed this at our April 4th meeting, and within that time frame, we had representation from Senator Pat O'Connor's office, representation from Josh Cutler's office, Susan Moran on one side, Mike Murphy on the other side. We had representation from Josh's office as well, but it was just interesting, the unanimous feeling that we on the committee had, okay? We looked at it, we drove the intersection, and at the May meeting, we discussed a little bit more, but it became relevant and apparent that we had to do something more. And the committee at that time voted unanimously to write a letter to the selectmen to request this further support and hopefully push the state to maybe go one step further and look at the official approval of a flashing light at this intersection. And if you read over on pages 6 and 7 of the report, it basically talks about it would be a red flashing light on 139 eastbound and westbound, and a yellow flashing light north and southbound on 3A. But I think the more we look at this intersection, the more we drive it, the more we feel that based on the accident reports, the frequency of the accidents, the seriousness of the accidents, we have to do something. And as Kevin Mullen said a while ago, we all moved to Duxbury for purpose. And hopefully, in his committee, they want to make it better. And in one case, I think our committee wants to make it better as well. And if we can build a legacy of some more traffic improvements to a major intersection in town, and fortunately for this project, if we play our cards right, this can be done to minimal cost, if any, to the town. It's the state highway, state intersection, and the way we've worked the roundabouts and the other flashing lights in town, it can come at minimal cost to the town. Okay? So I think in summary, on behalf of Jeff and Fred and Sheila and the rest of us on the committee, and I hope people, not zooming in, but hopefully watching on TV tonight, they can, understand that their word is being pushed forward by the few of us here, and hopefully we can gather your support as well. Yes, sir.
May I just ask a quick question, then
Sure.
I'll write to you. I just missed it because I was flipping the page when you said it. Where would the flashing light be? Proposed, like the proposal or the idea be? You said
At the intersection of 139 and 3A.
you said one way and east and west.
They'd be flashing red on 3A, Church Street, and the eastern side of Tremont Street. The name changes there if you're familiar with it.
They would have orange on 3A.
So
And then
three-
orange would be north and south on 3A.
Got it.
Right, 3A would have priority.
Correct.
That's what
Yeah,
I
because the stop signs are on the 139.
Go right ahead for now.
Okay, so it sounds like medium cost, you can get it done, midterm, right? But safety enhancement with the idea of controlling speeds. But there are some other low costs, right? Paint, signs, and maintaining the catch basins. Can we not get this done as well?
Maintaining
those
catch
are low-
basins,
yeah.
maintaining catch basins is one it's a maintenance. The state goes out and cleans the sumps on their catch basins on an annual basis. That's being done. Right now, I think,
They are doing that.
yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And then the paint?
Well, the traffic lines are striped every year. That is
Okay,
a
I'm
normal
just
state responsibility. Doesn't cost the town anything.
Okay, maybe another way to ask is, there's some short-term low cost,
Correct.
and then my question is, are they being done then?
We have talked about a flashing stop sign there, like we have at Franklin Street and 53 up by High Street. That can be done with minimal cost and a fairly quick turnaround on that.
No,
You're not getting an answer.
I'm not getting an answer, right? Let me try again. It says, short-term low cost, replace all outdated and missing advanced warning signs per MUTCD compliant retro reflective signs. Place signs on both sides of the roadway for maximum visibility and driving awareness. Use street name plate cards below signs to further enhance driver awareness. These are short-term, low-cost things that you can do right now because you don't take your time to go ahead and put in the flashing light. Are these being done?
As of now, I'm not aware of anything. Number one is we haven't petitioned the state to do anything. Now, we in town can do minimal things at the town's portion of the right-of-way on 139.
And again, this is a road safety audit done by Mass DOT,
Correct.
right? So what is how do we enforce the actions and recommendations from this Mass DOT audit? Who can then we follow up with to make sure that the low-cost, very quick things they could be doing are getting done?
Right now, it'd be an action from the town to the Mass DOT in Taunton, District 5.
So maybe that's one of the one of the actions that we can take tonight is in addition to that letter
That can be
saying,
done.
please
That can be
also.
done minimally, really, with very few approvals.
Right.
Okay? It's just something that provides minimum improvement, to be frank.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, but they can be done, right? It's low cost.
Correct.
Low cost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just,
we got-
no,
I'm just-
I guess to follow up on that, who makes those calls, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm just trying to,
It would come from the staff here in town to
Right.
their counterparts at District 5.
all right. So we can go ahead and say, hey, District 5, have you guys done these low cost, quick actions to improve
I think that's
safety?
a
at the-"
question for Rainey.
We
Correct.
can ask them.
Yeah?
That can be requested.
Okay. All right.
I do have a question myself.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
When they say they're going to be overhead flashing beacons, are they suspending them on a wire? Because in both cases, they say overhead.
That's the generic term, Rainey, that
Okay.
basically, until they look at the definitive layout of the intersection, more than likely it's going to be, let's just say,
Pole-mounted.
the standard flashing
Oh, right.
signs that you see at Bailey's Corner at Holy Family and.
Pole mounted,
Rupert
okay,
Fair.
that's what I thought.
Because to raise it up, suspend it above is a little bit difficult at that intersection, as
That's
we
what I
know.
thought, yeah.
Good point.
Correct.
Are there statistics that show that the flashing lights make a significant difference? I understand it's a low-cost solution, or is it a solution, I guess is my question. What are the statistics? How much of an impact do these flashing lights make on the accident data?
It provides for an improvement, whether it's significant or nominal. I think when you read further into your report and you look at the high cost long-term, a roundabout is the Cadillac. Okay? But how many years is it going to take to get another roundabout approved in town at this stage of our life, to be honest?
But we can, again, this is a state road, right? So we
Yes,
can
sir.
still push them to actually do something, which is obviously longer term, right cost, right? We got you got the roundabouts there at those
Correct.
two
The
intersections, right?
state is
Finally.
also looking at 2 or 3 other intersections at 3A and Sol Ave,
Right,
and 3A at Bennett's Corner at Park Street and Oak Street.
Right.
So,
Those are
you
terrible.
know, there's only
too.
so much we can request the state to do
Sure.
based on the number of accidents, the seriousness of the accidents, and the fact that this Cox's Corner is in need of improvement
sure,
and has been
great.
there for years.
I just wonder, I guess the reason for my question is if you go ahead and say, well, okay, it's low cost, is there a chance of getting it done? We'll go ahead and we'll settle for a flashing light there, when really we want a more permanent solution. Does it just knock us so far back down on the list of ever getting something done? Because there's
No, it
already
doesn't,
some
no.
mitigation there.
Going back in time when we had the first fatality at Lincoln and Route 14, there was talk of a flashing light. Then we had the second fatality, and that's what brought it up over the threshold to make it a roundabout.
Yeah, well,
The same
I'd like
thing
to
in
avoid
Winter
the
in 53.
fatalities to get higher on the list.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But unfortunately, by the sounds of it, terrible things need to happen
Jeez.
before we can get the,
Yes, sir, that is correct, and I don't want to say any more.
okay, thank you.
I will. We asked that question when you and I were on the call back with Peter Butkus, and I said, what is the threshold? I said, we've had, I don't know, we had a half a dozen accidents, and there were maybe as many fatalities. I said, how many people have to die before you do it? And I think the number was 8.
Oh,
that they
my
came
gosh.
back with. Remember
That's-
that? It was incredible.
That's insane.
It was. Yep.
I mean, that night in, that first week in April, when we had the accident, I know Sheila came to that meeting that Monday night on April 1st. She attended both our meetings in April and May, and she was the one that pushed as much as anybody could and would. And the same thing, you know, how many accidents, or how serious the accidents have to be before they will do something important and critical to improve it without some sort of catastrophe that we don't want to think about.
And in that same meeting, they were very careful to explain that the Department of Transportation's goal isn't to stop traffic, it's to keep it moving. And that is a very important distinction, because they are a Department of Transportation, not a department of stopping people. So they want to keep moving, they want to keep the flow.
That's the roundabout.
Because we were asking for traffic calming measures up there. Remember that? It was rather incredible to hear him say
Traffic
that.
light will be a significant improvement.
So bottom line, Amy, to answer your question, unfortunately, well, fortunately, putting the flashing light won't affect the outcome. If the other thing happens, they'll get the roundabout. That answers your question, I suppose, isn't it?
And when you look at the
Sadly.
traffic data, when the accidents occurred, they're all daytime. They're all dry conditions.
At 3 o'clock.
And
It's every time.
It is, it's, I go through there.
81% of them are high and dry.
You gotta be careful, man.
difficult.
Don't trust
Speed.
anybody.
Yeah.
Jeff, I don't want to take this from you at all. Did you want to add anything before we took a
did,
vote on this?
yes.
Go right ahead.
Jeff Lewis, the other co-chair of the Highway Safety Committee. I just did want to maybe add a little bit of clarification of what Fernando was talking about too. But in an email that we received from the MassDOT traffic engineer in District 5, this intersection has been added to the scope of work that's doing a lot of other intersections within District 5. It's also part of the project that's doing the intersection at Route 53 and Franklin Street. So that's a bigger project, but it's in that same realm of projects that MassDOT has undertaken. So
Okay.
improvements at this intersection are already approved by MassDOT and going to be implemented. I think their focus are some of the short-term improvements like pavement markings and signage
good.
and that type thing. So
Good.
that's going to proceed.
Okay.
One thing that we wanted to try to emphasize was the flashing beacon.
Right.
And because that may be perceived as a midterm type solution, but
okay.
it was also listed in the RSA as a short term and a midterm. And my interpretation was that the short term was more the post flashing beacon type that's at 3A and Toby Garden.
Right.
Versus the overhead that Rainey had brought up before.
Okay,
So
so thanks for that clarification. So they are working on this as part of their project, and this letter is just really just to push, guys, you're doing all this work.
Yes,
Please consider and please do something about the flashing lights.
It's our understanding that they are looking for support from the
Okay.
town
Yeah.
to keep going forward with
Okay,
this.
thank you for that clarity.
Sure.
All right. Unless there are any other questions, I'm happy to take a vote. Go right ahead.
All my questions were answered.
Vote, Councilman Nassar.
Susanna Sheehan, Powder Point Avenue, and I wanted to comment on this because this is where the Duxbury Clippers offices were for many years, and it was terrifying because not only were you driving the intersection frequently, but listening to the squeals and the crashes gave me like PTSD. But one thing I've thought about, and I saw over the weekend in Cape Cod, is a small little sign that just says crossing or cross traffic does not stop. And if those were put on the flashing beacon, it might mean that the people would stop at the stop signs and understand that the 139 of the 3A traffic doesn't stop. Teeny little signs, that would be a great recommendation to add to your letter. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, that in the back of my mind, whatever the outcome of this is, more direction does need to be given to people to know, especially people that don't live here, who has the right of way and who doesn't. Because it's not clear. People just make their own rules out there. And that's what we're hearing and seeing.
Well,
So,
what I'm taking also from what Suzanne just said was that we have so many four-way stops at this point in history that I'm thinking what you're saying is that people assume there that everybody's going to stop, so they just go and
that's what,
That's, that is
where we are.
frightening.
Bad assumption.
Yeah, that's a very bad assumption.
Can I ask either Mr. Lewis or Mr. Brogner to maybe just come up? That suggestion is not included in the safety audit, it's not included. Is that something that we can amend the letter, or I'm just being honest, right? If it's not part of the audit and part of the recommendation by DOT, this is a state road.
My
will they
understanding,
listen
Mr.
to us?
Gotthard, is the low-cost, short-term items are, if you will, with everyday budget items from one fiscal year to another. The cost to design and install a traffic light, flashing or not, is something more of a capital project or a mid-range type project that's indicated in the report. So that's something that needs a special letter, if you will.
No, that wasn't what I'm asking. Let me repeat my question again. Susanna made a recommendation that with that flashing light installed, you put this sign saying that opposing traffic ain't stopping, right? It's not a four-way stop. Is that, if it's not part of the DOT audit, will they listen to us if we put it in a letter? That's my question, I'm trying to see whether it's worthwhile
Can I help
amending
with
the
this?
letter.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where was that sign that you saw? No, I understand, but was it on a state highway or a town? Because that makes a difference. Without knowing, we're not allowed to alter state signs.
Yeah.
So, and what did it say again? What was the wordage?
Cross traffic does not stop.
Yeah.
Cross traffic does not
Sounds like a
stop.
Town sign.
And
Okay,
I'm just wondering, just as a ongoing, maybe with Sheila at some point, if there are ways we can put additional signage as this develops. I think that's more specific to our concerns. That would be a good thing to think about.
Yeah.
Because this is a good point to make, that we're all making here about who has the right of way. And a blinking yellow light or a red stop sign doesn't necessarily tell an unknown person, someone that's
Yes, it
not.
does.
Yeah, it
If they know
does.
how to
It
drive.
does, but, you
It
know,
does, right?
we have young drivers, we
that's the
have
thing.
people that aren't familiar with the area, and sometimes they don't know.
But, okay, the problem is, there's been a really good suggestion come up, and we're trying to figure out whether it's worthwhile amending to the letter. Is it worthwhile doing it, or is there something else we should do at a later date? And that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I guess, in my opinion,
Yep.
it might be worthwhile to mention. I think when they're going through the engineering
Yep.
for this intersection,
Yep.
they will look at all the MUTCD standards
Okay.
and apply those as necessary.
All right.
Whether this sign is part of that, I don't know offhand, but it's not something that's, probably commonly done on a main thoroughfare like 3A, but if you wanted to add that to the letter, I don't see a harm in that.
Okay, so I'll amend the motion to say amend, as the amended letter, right? Are you guys okay doing that?
I would be, yeah.
Yeah.
I would suggest something along the lines of like appropriate right-of-way signage.
So maybe such as?
Yes, such as, or
Okay.
something like that.
This letter is from,
And we can work on it.
who wants to work on the letter, is that?
I'm already drafting it right now.
Is it already drafting? Okay,
It's all
good.
right. Yeah, we
Yep.
can sign it.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, so I'm sorry, Jeff touched upon a question that I had, and I'm not sure I heard the whole answer. I understand, Jeff, you had spoken about the April 4th email to the town about the project being included for short-term safety improvements. And I just wanted to clarify in my own mind. So are we suggesting that the flashing light would be considered a short-term safety improvement, and therefore this is the short-term safety improvement we are requesting? Or are we saying that we're approved for short-term safety improvements, but the light is maybe a midterm and we're requesting that?
That's what it is.
Can you just clarify that for me?
Yeah, I think what we're clarifying is, or trying to direct them on our suggestion is to get the flashing beacon. Whether that's, in one part, in the report, it shows in the table, it listed in the short term
Medium term.
and the medium term.
Right.
And my interpretation of that is that The short term would be the post-mounted flashing beacon, where the medium term may be the overhead flashing light. So I think our goal is to try to get that flashing beacon, whichever mode they want to pursue. But I think either one of those would be a drastic improvement.
Okay,
All right.
all right. I'm ready to.
I'm ready to. Is there anything you'd like to add, Ms. Benton?
Sure. The highest number of traffic incidents are in August, when Route 3 North or Route 3 South is jammed with cars going to the Cape.
Correct.
And people who aren't familiar with the intersection. And the fire department came to our meeting and said, it's mainly out-of-town crashes.
Sure.
And it's summer, high summer traffic avoiding Route 3. So they don't know how to go through the intersection. So what Susanna suggested would be great. The other thing I wanted to mention is Senator O'Connor said it's much better to have a Board of Selectmen suggest the solution and go right to DOT for him to get the funding, because he'll be key
Got it.
to make the funding happen.
Yeah. And I think this is pretty clear to everyone's credit about what the recommended solution is. So I'm comfortable with the letter as drafted, and I'm certainly ready for a vote if everybody else is.
I thought we were amending.
We are,
I got
as
it.
amended.
I'll give it to you. It's going to also include a statement that says appropriate right-of-way signage, such as cross traffic does not stop. But I'll fix it.
So I move that Select Board executed a letter as amended to Mary Jo Perry, District Highway Director for Mass DOT District 5, supporting the project to implement safety improvements at the intersection of Route 3A and 139 in the town of Duxbury.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Either one. We both seconded.
Stop it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Great.
Thank you
Thank you very
all.
much, everybody.
Thank you
you.
very
Thank you.
much. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to have a discussion and vote regarding a proposed flag policy. And I'm going to let Mr. Reed just lead us off here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet, you'll find a memo from me regarding this proposed policy. Excuse me. In addition to a copy of the draft policy itself, the memo reads as follows. This proposal arrives before the board as a result of a U.S. Supreme Court case involving the city of Boston, the background and details of which I've included in there. The court's action prompted a number of communities to adopt similar policies to appropriately address this issue. The attached policy is intentionally drafted to be straightforward and reflective of the town's decades-long practice for displaying the flag and will serve to memorialize that practice in the future. That said, I recommend that the Board of Selectmen, well, I should say Select Board, approve the proposed policy as presented. And because it's so brief, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read it for the folks who may
suggest
watch
that.
this in the future. Section 1, Introduction. This policy is intended to address flags allowed to be flown on Town of Duxbury flagpoles. Section 2, Flags allowed to be flown. The Select Board authorizes the following flags to be flown on town-owned flagpoles as an official expression of the town's governmental speech, to which the strictures of the First Amendment do not apply. The official flag of the United States of America, the official flag of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the official flag of the town of Duxbury, the official flags of the various branches of military services of the United States of America, and or the official MIA POW flag. No other flags shall be allowed to be flown on town of Duxbury-owned flagpoles, as those flagpoles in this policy are not intended to establish or serve to create a forum for private expression. This policy shall take effect upon adoption. There it is.
Do any board members have any questions or comments? There being none, do any?
Can I
Mr.
ask
Chairman?
one?
Go
No,
ri-
Go ahead.
I'll let Brian go first because he's remote.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the county will probably be disappointed that we won't be able to fly their flag. Setting that aside, I did have a discussion with Rainey just to confirm that this is applying only to exterior town-owned flagpoles. And what came to my mind, for example, are the Hall of Flags within the school, for example. I don't think we're intending that, even though those individual poles may be owned by the town of Duxbury, we're not looking for the school department to take down, the international flags. This is for flags on exterior poles, customarily in front of public buildings. Rainey, do I have that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to provide that clarity, or is that?
No, you do not.
Okay.
Do you have a
No,
question?
I think this is good. I'm not sure that this has ever been an issue, but I guess it will just avoid a
It
potential
hasn't,
future.
it has never been an issue, but it's all about avoidance, prevention,
Well,
if
it's
you
been
will.
an issue in Boston,
Yeah, not
Right.
here,
It was.
not
right?
here.
But
Yeah.
not in Duxbury, but I mean, it's
It was
been an
in
issue.
Boston.
Yep,
It has in other communities
Right.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
sure it has. Yeah.
we're heading it off at the
we'll
pass.
be proactive.
Exactly. A motion then?
Yes, unless there is a member of the public that would wish to speak, if you just give your name and address, please. Sure.
Hi, I'm Kathleen O'Malley. I'm 3 Cordwood Path. And when I saw this, I was curious what it was about. I called Town Hall, and I didn't read your memo. It was exactly as I was told in the phone. And I agree the issue is a concern legally, because I know it was both Boston, and I believe there may be other ones. But as someone in the community, I think the issue of the pride flag concerns me. Many people support it, many people don't. I think it's divisive personally. I wish to respect everybody who wants to hang their flag, but I do know one hangs in the main halls of the schools, the Duxbury High School, and I think that should be taken into consideration. Could this subject us to lawsuits or not? And is it fair to have it? Now, I grew up with the rainbow symbolizing God's promise. Now it's seen as an LGBT flag. And regardless of what I see versus someone else sees it, I wouldn't want my personal beliefs hanging in the schools, making an opinion, a decision for kids to respond to. And I think you should consider, should these flags in the buildings be allowed or not, too? Not to be controversial.
We and if I'm overstepping here, certainly, Rainey, let me know. The buildings that are the schools are the function of the school committee and the superintendent, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Not this board.
We
Could be
also
a
fly that
school.
same, we fly that same flag at the library as well.
And
You
that's
do.
the library
Yes, we do.
trustees.
But,
So it's different in our New
so
England
you're
form.
saying in the library you fly it versus out of the?
No, out front, on the wall.
What I'm
Yes.
saying is we have, in this form of government, we have elected bodies for.
Okay. So
We are-
who
We are
addresses
talking
it?
about town buildings
Yeah.
because we are the select board.
Oh, so you don't
he is the
address the
town
town
manager.
buildings? Okay. So
this
you
is
have
a
to go
policy.
to
But it's an interesting point, because those very same town buildings, the library is owned by the town, as are the
It's the
schools.
library trustees.
And the
I
liability.
understand that they're governed by the library trustees,
Right.
but I
The
certainly can
liability issue
understand.
is my concern, who will pay if we have legal bills regarding various opinions on this? Because that's what happened, I know, as I said, in Boston, was a
They
religious.
flew it on a flagpole.
Yeah, okay.
That's the difference.
And Bill Rick, I know, I'm not quite sure, but I know they just decided to have no flags other than the ones you mentioned, and I think it needs
That's
to
what,
be.
that's what the
this is.
proposal is here.
Yeah, yeah, but, okay, so you'd address the school committee versus the
Right,
inside
the-
buildings. Okay,
A
thanks.
school,
Yeah, and the library board of trustees.
Any other questions from the board, or are we ready for a vote? I'm ready for a vote.
I move to approve the flag policy as stated.
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Aye.
Thank you, Brian.
Right, unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
No, Cindy seconded. I'm going to let her do it.
So Cindy will be the official seconder, how about that?
Official seconder,
Official
yeah.
seconder.
That's what I was voted in back in April.
Yeah.
Seconder.
I didn't
nominated
catch
you for
that. I didn't catch- there you go.
Sounds
I
like.
seconded it.
What
I
was
second
that,
the
I
seconder.
just forgot.
Cat in the Hat book, the second, what are they called?
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Anyhow, we can move on. We have a discussion regarding 470 Summer Street. The D. Lorenzo Conservation Restriction, number 47. This is going to be presented by Ms. Rufo, but I know that we've...
It's actually not going to be.
Got it.
But it's just not ready yet, but it will be on a future agenda.
All right, great.
She came as a courtesy in case
What happened? Why is it not ready?
it's just not ready.
Oh.
It will be later.
Oh, okay.
All right. Town Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That?
Yes, I was looking forward to reading the motion.
We'll get you on the next one, Nance. Just let me know when
He's
you're
the
ready.
most active clerk. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, Brian, you're fired.
He is just chomping at the bit here, Brian.
Just a couple of quick updates for you with regard, somebody had mentioned the water rate study, and I wanted to let you know that our DPW director, Sheila Scarzi, has completed an initial draft of the RFP for the water and sewer rate study, which she and Water and Sewer Superintendent Mark Cloud are currently reviewing. Once they've concluded their review, it'll be going to Town Council for their review prior to publication.
Thank you.
The East Street Bridge update, as of last weekend, Mass DOT did exactly what they said they would do, and they closed the East Street Bridge at 5 a.m. on Friday, July 12th. They're estimating the closure will be for about 12 months. Duxbury Beach, the weekly update, we still have 50 piping plover pairs with one active nest, and 10 broods of chicks at Duxbury Beach. To date, 12 broods have fledged their chicks thus far, for a total of 30 chicks that have fledged. And to date, 23 nests have been lost, 18 of those due to predators. 20 broods have been lost, 12 have been lost due to suspected predation. The least turned chicks are growing, and the oldest chicks are around 3 to 4 weeks old. The chicks are beginning to fledge in some colonies as well. However, there are still active nests that are being incubated in all the colonies that may hatch in the coming weeks. Just so you know, so the drive-on portion is still closed. The walk-on portion is very busy. If anybody happened to be out there yesterday, it was insanely busy. But we are able to accommodate people out there at this moment. Once that place opens up, whether it be for 50 cars or more, or maybe even 30, we will be sure to get the message out and let everybody know.
Can I just ask you to clarify? You
Yeah.
said that there are 50 pairs,
Yeah.
but only one nest.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, so this is my question because
By the way, I don't write this.
I know,
Okay,
and I'm
just so you know.
I'm shooting the messenger
Yeah.
a little bit here, and but this is the question that I've been getting, and I got pictures today of the bridge being entirely full by vehicles, and I know there is a portion of the beach that's open, but clearly it's not enough for the number of people that are purchasing stickers and that are trying to recreate. If there's only one nest, what is closing these crossovers? And I'm not asking you to put you on the spot tonight, but I think that's the answer that
The one nest that I referred to was the piping plovers.
There's only one piping plover nest.
Yeah.
And what I'm wondering is, what is closing these crossovers
Let's see.
to
I think there was
overstanding
some
vehicles?
small
Duxbury
birds, though,
Beach, the six, let me read a little bit more here. Least turned chicks are growing, and the oldest are about 3 to 4 weeks. They're beginning to fledge in some colonies. However, there are still active nests being incubated in all the colonies that may hatch in the coming weeks. On Duxbury Beach, the 6 historic least turn areas are at Duxbury Beach Park, north of the resident lot, around the North Poles. There's one problem, well, not problem, but one aspect. Slightly north of crossover 1 to south of crossover 2, south of crossover 3, and along Plum Hills to Gurnet. An additional 7th turn colony has been established within the Bayside recreated habitats, the first in Duxbury's beach history. So you still have least turns present out there in the impacted area, and which are impacting the area.
I think I'd like to know exactly what is causing this. And I know that you're reading what they provided, but what is causing this access issue?
What do you mean causing it?
Well, like, I mean,
I think
is
it's
it,
the
and
least
how
turns.
long,
I
you
think
know?
it's the
Oh, I
least
see what you're
turns,
saying.
and
You know, I'm just trying to
I
understand.
bet, I wonder if that one nest isn't a type, or
No,
or
but-
maybe
No, no,
the
it's
three last week.
fledglings
It's
of the
legit,
brood.
because Joey's very good about making sure the information is accurate, and he sends it to me every Monday.
Well, maybe
Go
the other
back-
little ones running around.
Can you go back, yeah, I think it's the small ones. Can you go back to the piping plovers, what you were saying about them?
Yep, there are 50 pairs,
50 pairs,
yep, with one active nest,
yeah,
10 broods of chicks,
10 broods of chicks.
yep, to date.
Okay, that's it. So they're running around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're running around, yeah.
Yeah.
And they haven't fledged yet.
I'm not a very person, so I just,
They're just chicks, they haven't.
We need to encourage the 50 pairs to go move on.
There's a couple of, talking to people, I was not here yesterday, but a couple of issues. One is that people with out-of-town stickers are parking in the resident lot.
Yeah,
And
we do have a provision for that, to allow that when we have a situation like we've had recently. If we have space, if, I believe if all of the residents are okay, if all of the residents have been accommodated and we can somehow allow non-residents, and I think they have to go up to the
yesterday
Lagerstat.
was not that case.
that was not.
No, it was
that
pretty,
bad.
it was
So,
pretty
but
tight
there were
down there.
people there that were out of state, no,
Out of
out
town.
of town.
Mm.
I'm a little jet lagged, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Out of town. And the question was, could, when the crossovers are closed,
Uh-huh.
could the out-of-town sticker holders approach the Duxbury Beach through Blakeman's area?
Yes, instead of the bird.
Because
the
then they
bridge.
don't have to go over the bridge and through the parking lot and park in those spots. Or if they came through Blakeman's because they know they're not going to be able to park.
I don't have a definitive answer, but I have an anecdotal one, because that's the way I drive. I come in from the Marshfield side to drop my son off at Blakeman's, who works there.
Yeah.
And I know that they have staff at what I call the Lagerstat lot. There are 2 staff members there that are waiting to accommodate whoever's coming in to park there. Now, I don't know that you have to go through over the bridge to make an official entry onto the beach. I just don't know the answer to that question. I can find out. Because you want to know if they can, those just took the word right out of my mouth. If you can alleviate the traffic
Yeah.
flow on the bridge and come in the Marshfield side.
Right.
Yeah, are there
Number
2
one, and
points of
number
access?
two, it would prevent people with out-of-town stickers from parking in the resident lot.
Yes, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but we do have a second guard shack now.
I saw that,
Out
but they
there.
still have to go through the parking lot, and if there's an open space, they can just
They might
pull
just
in
grab
and
it.
nobody.
And they will.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about coming from the Marshfield side, so are you, right? Yeah.
So, just a thought.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and the advantage of that is that there is less traffic on
Right.
that bridge. There's
Oh, yeah.
some loose boards.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going to be a huge cost to us all.
Yeah.
I mean, not every weekend day is going to be as hot as I heard yesterday was, but.
Yeah, it was intense. Good? Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Earth removal info. Regarding one aspect of the DPW project that came up at your last meeting, Jim Wazalewski and I looked into the question of earth removal from the site, and the removal of material from the site is allowed by way of exemption related to building projects in at least 3 instances. The zoning bylaw allows it for the land clearing and grading regulation does not apply to the following activities, that is, construction of structures, roadways, parking lots, and associated activities for non-residential structures or uses in receipt of a special permit from the Board of Appeals or Planning Board. The earth removal rules and regulations, they apply to all earth removal in town except for earth removal normally required for the excavation of a permitted construction project, including driveways, walks, streets, and municipal operations, which are exempt pursuant to Section 8.1.2 of the general bylaws. And finally, the Town of Duxbury General Bylaws, under the earth removal section 8.1.2, states that removal of soil, loam, sand, or gravel to the extent normally required for the excavation of a permitted construction project, including driveways, walks, streets, and municipal operations, shall be exempt from the provisions of this chapter. So basically, they are allowed to move the material off-site when the time comes.
I don't think anybody questioned that. I think what Cindy brought up was that other towns in their earth removal bylaws don't allow for the earth to be removed out of the town. I know Plymouth has that provision, as does
We
other.
don't have that.
I know, and that's when I had suggested that we maybe revisit our earth removal bylaw to add some provisions. Not only was it to keep the soils in town, but also there were some other neighbors that have had, I think, some unintended consequences from that. So I think there's a couple of reasons to revisit that. But I don't think any of us was suggesting that it isn't something that can currently be done.
No.
I think what we're saying, at least I know what I'm saying, and I'm really, I want this clear, and I would really ask the board members to join me in asking that the sand that, from the DPW site be utilized on the beach.
Knowing that question would come up, and it had been answered before by Weston and Sampson, I asked them again this afternoon, and the main reasons the sand can't be used are the following. The timing, because of the permitting, wouldn't work because there were a significant number of restraints on the timeline due to the permitting. The town does not have the funding for shaping or moving the sand as it's delivered to the location. The DPW staff don't have the capacity for this project since it's a sizable amount that cannot just be easily dumped without someone on standby to move, lift, and shape it. And the sand, after additional testing on Weston and Sampson's part, may not be compatible without amending it, which is typical, but that would require another project for which the town does not have the funding. And it was for those reasons.
I feel like it's always, no, we can't. No, we can't
But
do
the-
it, but we can't.
But those were the reasons that were given
How about them coming
to
back
you.
and saying, yes, we can, we will find a way to do
What I
this?
can tell you, and you know this because I had explained it previously, we tried. We looked at 6 different sites, none of which were either suitable in terms of what was happening at the sites. They were too wet, or there were access issues, or spatial.
That was to store the sand
That-
until we could utilize it.
Yeah, which could have been, 2 years. We were looking for town-owned sites, but there just aren't any.
What about bringing it down to the beach? Could we not
Those were the
utilize
reasons.
some
It was for the reasons I just explained that we can't.
because it's too wet, because of what?
Nope, because of the volume, it's not something the DPW can just haul down. It was for these reasons. The timing due to the permitting, there were a significant number of restraints on the timeline due to the permitting, as would be required through the state. The town does not have the funding for the shaping and moving of the sand as it's delivered to the location. The DPW don't have the capacity for this project since it's a sizable amount that cannot just be easily dumped without someone on standby to move it, lift it, and shape it. And the sand, after additional testing on, may not be compatible without amending, which is typical, but that requires another project for which the town does not have
But-
funding. So what I was looking at originally, the place I was most hopeful for, but it isn't big enough and the access doesn't work, was behind North Hill. I thought it would be ideal, where we have actually dumped material in the past. It's just not big enough, because what we were looking for is a site that we can just back it up into, dump it, and leave. But in the case of the beach, because of the confines of the space that we would be using, it would have to be a pile 20 to 25 feet high, and it would have to be fenced in, and we don't have anybody that can go down there and start shaping this thing. It isn't where you can just dump it and leave it. It all has to be manicured, if you will.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm wondering if something, if like Jim Wazlewski's had a chance to chat with anybody from DBR, and maybe they could do some of that work, if
Well,
they-
I had the conversations with them. We all did. It was a series of exchanges where we were really trying to make this work, but it's also a money issue because now it becomes a separate project and it actually delays the timeline of the DPW building project itself. Because it would have to sit out there for 12 to 18, 24 months before we could do anything with it. Though not preferred, that's where we are.
Can we try to move forward in changing our bylaw for the future?
Sure, I would not recommend doing it now when you've got you're talking about the earth removal bylaw?
Yeah.
To keep the material in town? Yeah, I would not recommend doing it now when we've got a DPW project on the way.
Well, by the time we get the bylaw even written, let
It would-
alone.
And the DPW building, the last I read, in the Clipper, and the last I heard up here is that, we are not moving forward, and, I mean, there's a budget problem right there. We don't have.
Well, we're still meeting and we're trying to make adjustments as we can. So the project's not dead.
Can I just understand Cindy, your concern, is it your concern that if we don't do this bylaw amendment, that other towns will come and take our sand? Is that, what's?
No, just that we have sand in town that we're sending out, whereas now then the beach people are now going out further to find sand to bring in.
Right, so
I get you.
I get you, so it's DBR have a project, and they want sand, and we're trying to.
No.
No, we're not, this isn't to accommodate anyone, and again, look to other towns.
Yeah.
Other towns have this
also
provision
have
as
a
well.
seawall.
I know, we've got the
So,
seawall too. I'm trying to understand, just so I can help, right? So, see what I can help is, other towns don't want to take, if we need sand, we can't go to Plymouth to get their sand,
Right.
because they've got this bylaw. So we want to create this bylaw to stop other towns from coming and taking our sand. Is that what we're trying to do?
Well, in this case, it's not other towns. In this case, it's, we have sand that we would like to utilize in theory, and yet Weston and Sampson is going to have to find somebody else to come to do that excavation work, and they're going to take the sand.
Out of
Yep.
trucks out of this town.
Yep, and
They're gonna
truck it
truck it out.
away and sell it to somebody else, and in a
send it
few
to,
short months, we're gonna need to
Rockport, I mean,
buy
whatever.
sand for the seawall, and it just seems like a complete no-brainer to me.
Well, again, I know it seems like a no-brainer, but what I'm hearing from Rennie, I'm just trying to understand
No, I
both points of
understand,
view, right? Is that we still don't have the permit, right, for the seawall project,
Correct.
right? And so at some point, have we lined up the Gantt chart for the likely execution of the DPW project and the likely execution of the seawall project, and find out if they do intersect, or they're so badly out that we have to find a place to put the sand, because when we get rid of the sand here, we need the sand way out there, so we got to find a place to store it. Is that, where are we with
Well-
these two projects? I'm trying to do it this way.
There's
That's the
there's a-
$2 million question.
There's
There's a third
Fernando.
project.
There's
The
third
third
project.
project is beach nourishment, which is related to the seawall.
Right.
So the seawall, you have to look at that separate and
Okay,
independent.
well, all right, then the third
that's
project. So where are we with the,
project.
where are we with the nourishment project? And does it align with the
Nowhere.
DPW project?
We're nowhere with the nourishment project.
We're nowhere.
Yeah, because we don't have any funding to purchase
We need
sand.
money.
Yeah.
We need to purchase the sand.
But we don't, but we also have to move it and
We
shape
have
it.
it.
We don't have the money to move it, right? It has to
We
come
have
out
to,
of
we have to
some
be able
budget.
to move it, amend it, and shape it.
But we're gonna pay somebody out of the resident coffers to have somebody move it, and from the DPW site.
So,
Why not
so
have
what
it?
you're saying is we should get the DPW people to move it.
That's one option.
No, it is not, and I've explained that, as did the engineers well over a month ago, that we do not have the capacity to do that. We do not. To move 30,000 cubic yards of material is not doesn't fall under the roof of the DPW. That is not, the earth removal is part of the project. And its value as a commodity is not what everybody had thought.
But the value to us is enormous. It could potentially save $5 million in sand nourishment.
How do you
We
figure?
could figure out a way to do this.
How could it save us
Because we're
$5
gonna
million?
need to we're gonna need to buy sand for the nourishment, which is part of the seawall project.
Okay, but it's
in
important to
the
understand,
future.
this is only 30,000 cubic yards. We need 300,000 cubic yards to nourish the beach. This isn't even a drop in that bucket.
Well, it's a drop.
But you have to understand, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it becomes a Pyrrhic victory at that point, it's not worth the cost of waging the war. It's such a small volume.
All right.
So, that's that.
That's the update.
That is the update, yes.
All right, well, thank you.
Committee appointments, reappointments, and resignations. We have one.
Yep, we have what? We have quite a few, but,
Well, one committee.
yeah. I
Sorry.
move- Sorry.
The best clerk ever.
You're saying one, there's
I
one,
know, I
two,
got
three,
one-
4, 5,
One
there's 5
task force.
people.
I
There's
am
five-
very sorry, sir.
should-
You are the
should have
best clerk.
clarity. Mr. Chair, you should be clear in your statements.
right.
I move that the Duxbury Select Board reappoint the following members of the Age and Dementia Friendly Task Force for a term to expire 30th of June 2025. Kathy Cross, appointment. Candida Brush, appointment. Joanne Moore, a reappointment. Kevin Mullins, a reappointment. And Brooke McDowell, a reappointment.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The following board.
Oh, unanimous.
The following boards and committee have available seats. Alternative Energy Committee, 2 seats. Coastal Resiliency Task Force, 2 seats. Duxbury Cultural Council, 1 seat. Economic Advisory Committee, 1 seat. Finance Committee, 1 seat. Fiscal Advisory Committee, 1 seat. Historical Commission, 1 seat. The King Caesar Advisory Committee has 2 seats. Finally, the Nuclear Advisory Committee has 1 seat. If anyone is interested in volunteering on a board or committee, you're encouraged to fill out the talent bank form, which can be found on the town's website under the Forms and Document tabs.
Great. We have some minutes.
I move to approve, these are the executive session minutes for review and approval. I move to approve the 22nd of January 2024 Select Board's executive session minutes with the contents removed confidential until a need has passed.
To
Second.
remain confidential.
Yes.
Brian, did you have any, is this the ones you made, edits to? Are you all set with everything?
Yeah, all the minutes for tonight look good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One minute, so you're doing the 122 first?
Yes.
Yes, that's why I read out. Let me read out the next one. I move to approve the 10th of June 2024 Select Board's executive session minutes with the contents to remain confidential until the need is passed.
Second.
To abstain.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Aye.
All right. Now we have announcements.
The
Mr. Clerk.
next scheduled Select Board's meeting will be on Monday, July 22nd, 2024 at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Wow.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.